Hello and welcome back to the New Earth Business Podcast. I am your host, Emma Shoesmith, and I am here with Zayne Spirit from Soul Drive Global, Ancestral Magic and Medicine. Now, we are internet buddies. We met through the ethers, and we've been connected, I think, for over a year now. We've experienced each other's medicine. I've been on your podcast. This is you coming onto my podcast, and I feel like we're just a massive inspiration for each other. You're doing a similar thing that I'm doing. We're doing it in our own unique way. And I just love tapping into your content and seeing you thriving in all of the different areas that you work. And I know that this podcast is going to be so inspirational, especially to those people that are already in healing businesses, conscious businesses, or perhaps thinking about creating a conscious business. So Zayne, as I said before, we were chatting, like you do so much and you've brought it together so beautifully. I'd love to know how you describe yourself to others. So please take the mic from me. Let me know what you do.
Taking the mic. Well, peace and blessings, everybody. And thank you so much, Emma, for having me on. Like, I love everything you do. I love this exchange that we have. It's so beautiful. I'm always so inspired by you, like all the time. Like, you've got me on my cacao ceremony. Like, I'm feeling very in tune again with my herbal medicine because of you. So thank you. And it's all love here. I would describe myself as a multidimensional being that is just on this earth, creating this experience and allowing life to experience me. So that's really the perspective that I wake up and I'm like, what can I bring forward? Like, who am I showing up as, and how is the world experiencing me? You know, I think that that what has really gotten me into this space of recognizing who I am is allowing spirit to flow through me and really tapping into my higher self, tapping into my ancestral roots, going so much deeper than just the physical bloodline. Though what a lot of people don't realize is that our ancestors can be plant ancestors. Our DNA is compromised by galactic influence, planetary influence. It's connected to so much more in previous soul experiences than just what is in our direct physical DNA. And so scientists can't even read all of DNA, you know? So like, it's full of all this wonder and possibility. And as I was tapping into myself, I came into this point where I realized that I'm so much more than just what the surface level is. You know, it's so much more. It's so much more in depth. And that's how I really got into ancestral magic and medicine, is by exploring that. And it started with me just being curious, trying to get to know who I am. And that started around 2016. Mm-hmm. That was when I really came into my conscious awareness through a physical accident, actually. Like, I was told in my early 20s that I was not going to live a regular life, that I would not walk again in the same way. I would not have regular relationships anymore. And I didn't want that for my life. You know, I was like, I don't want to be defined by that. And so I started healing my body. And this led me to eventually doing medical mediumship work, also helping spirits transition, helping other people through grievances, birth and bereavement. That led me on my doula path and journey as well. So I do a magnitude of things. A lot of it is energy transmutation. A lot of it is mediumship work. I do astral gridding, which is a form of astral projection where I can project into different spaces and place the energy there, or transmute the energy in those spaces. So on the base note of things, I call myself an alchemist, and just creating the life that I want to create, shifting the energy how I see fit, and allowing my spirit to guide me in those endeavors. And that also birthed my product line, connecting with ancient ancestors that work with me. There's 3 ancestors that actually are dedicated to my product line, which is Ku, Mazella, and Kechi. And they are collective ancestors. So when people utilize my products, they're here to help the collective. They're here to help our people as a whole. I have other ancestors that I work with on my own personal magic and medicine, but these are the ancestors that want to help other people through our work. So the products that I offer are through there. The channeled sound healings that I do are through them, as well as other nature spirits. And I just do an assortment of things, but it all connects to this DNA portion of exploring what's beyond what we can physically see and getting into the ethers with it. So that's it.
Yes, and we are certainly going to get into the ethers today. One of the things that I'd like to pick out of your, let's say, your whole suite of products, the range of what you've got, is I love that this is all so spirit-led, and you've got the perfect name for your brand. So when these ancestors, for the collective ancestors for the products, came through, tell me about that. Like, do they come to you in a vision, in a dream, or in a journey? How do you get this information and then so cleverly and strategically turn it into a product? I think a lot of people in the work that we do find there's a bit of a disconnect between getting that message and then disseminating it, getting it out there.
That's a great question. So the ancestor collections actually came about towards the end of 2019. And before then, Soul Drive was already born before then. And the products that I was making was infused with my energy personally. And so I was making like yoni steams and smoke blends and energy cleansing body scrubs, like I was in that exploration phase of just crafting in my witchery, I guess you could say, and that was such a beautiful time for me because I was really trying to find my niche. And I just love to create. I'm a very creative person, and that was how my spirit was expressing to begin with. So Soul Drive originally started as upkeep and remedies instead of ancestral magic and medicine, because upkeep and remedies, I wanted to enhance people's life by connecting the physical and the spiritual. And I was like, how can we do that? We can be more intentional with the products we use. If we're going to use toothpaste, let's make it third eye cleansing toothpaste. If we're going to use a body wash, let's do it for grounding or, protection. So I wanted my intentions to reach people, and I wanted to make it easier to incorporate everyday ritualistic habits that could connect you deeper to your intention. And when I was exploring my mediumship around 2019, I was like, okay, I can clearly see and hear spirits. I'm clearly encountering spirits that are earthbound, that are unable to make it across the veil. What am I doing with this gift, spirit? Like, what do you want me to do with this? And I took a mediumship class with one of my mentors, Satin Map, and it was very enlightening. And she really helped me to pinpoint different techniques, tap into different techniques that could help me to better utilize my abilities, and not be afraid of them. Because for so long, like as a kid, I could see spirits, I could feel it, I could, interact, but I was so afraid of that I really had to work through my fear. And so one day, one night, I turned off all the lights and I was scared of the dark. And I said, you know what, Spirit, I want to meet my benevolent ancestors. I want to meet my spirit team. I'm tired of being scared of what is on the other side. I'm sick of myself, like being in this fear. I'm sick of being in a place of, well, it's unknown. And I was like, so what? I am the unknown. I am the darkness. I am everything. So what if I'm just going to meet me? Why be afraid of it? And so that's really where I stood with it. So I got into meditation and I just called them forth. And I was like, I'm calling forth my benevolent ancestors. Show me who you are, and I started asking questions. What's your name? Who are you? What do you do? Tell me your story. Show me your story. And it's like we sat down for tea time and we got to talking. And I started meeting, I have always met spirits that didn't look like me, or I would always meet an array of spirits that I could tell were not just like my great grandma, for example, and I was like, are y'all my ancestors too? Like, what's going on? And then they started showing me these other lifetimes. They started showing me the position that I have played in other bodies and in other worlds, not just here, but in other planets, other star clusters, and so I started being opened up to a whole new space. And I got to know them, and we started spending, and then I started getting those visions of like, my products are changing. And then I saw the ancestor collections. I saw how it would be on the website. I actually contacted an artist friend of mine, and I was like, if I give you a description, can you draw these ancestors, And so the pictures you see are actually from an artist friend of mine named Tommy. And I was like, this is what they look like. Please put them on there so I can put them on the labels. And so, yeah, the ancestor collections have been birthed from that. And I just sat with them and I was like, what products do you want me to create? What intention do you want me to put into this? Mm-hmm. And the more I sat in meditation with that, the more that my brand continued to unfold. And so a lot of major changes have taken place since then, because it wasn't just my energy anymore. So the rituals changed. The way that I approached my soul-led entrepreneurship changed. And I just gained a different perspective of my position in the collective. So yeah, that's the story on the ancestor collections. It's been a while since I told that story, so I'm grateful you asked that.
Yeah, it's always been a curious sort of space for me, because I see them on your website and I see them in your content, and I'm like, I gotta know the backstory for this. And I think for people who are listening to this, it's quite a radically different way of creating. It's it's not something we get taught at school or on marketing courses. You don't, you do your market research and then you create something based on that, or you create based on a need, whereas this feels all like it's been channeled. And so is that how you work across the board? So how have you brought all of your products together, and what does like the structure of your sacred business look like?
It's definitely all spirit led. It's all channeled. And I can tell when I'm not doing something channeled because it feels so resistant.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell when I'm just like making up some shit in my head, you know, and I'm like, okay, this is clearly not it, but all of my rituals for the year is channeled to like every December, I ask Spirit, what community rituals do you want me to offer for the year? And I start hearing dates and I start hearing, what kind of rituals do we need to do? Or, okay, what products are we putting out this year? What are we discontinuing? I discontinue things all the time because they're like, it doesn't serve us anymore, so just allowing that to navigate my business. And a lot of people are like, that's too unpredictable for me. But, I feel the least resistance when I surrender to Spirit. Like I feel the most successful things continuously. It's about alignment, So like when you're in alignment, even though whatever Spirit wants you to do is not what you had made up in your mind, it's always going to be the most successful route. It's always going to be the most at ease route. And I told myself that I wanted to live a life of ease. I wanted to live a life of just obedience to what feels good to me. And so I have to listen to Spirit. Like I have to, like, that's the CEO of Soul Drive Global, like that's the end all be all, the one that makes all the decisions. And I can tell when I'm moving in a space that isn't in alignment with that. So
and what does that look like when you're not in alignment to being in alignment, just to give these like two pictures?
So I notice when I'm when I'm in a place of resistance, I will literally feel my body ache. Certain things will ache in my body when I'm going to do something. I will feel resistance from my audience. Like there will be no engagement on what I'm doing. And I'm like, I know this is a great idea. And Spirit is like, it's a great idea, but it's not for right now. And it's not that the things that I want are necessarily out of alignment for me entirely, but sometimes the things that we want is not for right now. Or things that we want need a little bit more development before we end up putting them out. So, for example, I tried to put out a cooking class earlier in the year, and I was sharing a space with someone for my in the space that I was going to be using for my cooking class. And I ended up having all this interest. It was like 70 people interested. Nobody bought though. Nobody bought. And that's abnormal for me because if it's in alignment, people are buying what I'm putting out there. Like, and it's just, it is what it is. And so I realized like, okay, maybe I need to reevaluate what I'm doing. And Spirit was like, you're going to do cooking classes, just not right now. Like you need more development, more time to like get it moving. And you need to ask yourself, what do you need? And I said, I need a bigger space and I need a space personally for me. And then I ended up transitioning and moving into a different space. So Spirit has been getting me prepared for my cooking class in that way, but I had to be patient for that. So that's one of the examples of something that I'm looking at, like reflecting on full circle now, like, because it's almost been a year. And I'm like, wow, I haven't thought about that cooking class idea in a while. And they're like, yeah, you needed to get your space in order for that. So it could be a multitude of things, but I usually recognize like how I feel internally and also the universal response. Like how is the universe, how is life responding to me?
Yeah. I have a similar thing with the body somatic messages that come through in resistance or in scarcity. I need to create this offer because, you know, I haven't sold a couple of coaching sessions this month, and then I'll think I've channeled the best offer in the world because it's come to me really quickly because I'm an ideas person, a creative person. And then it comes out and it's like, my community isn't ready for that. Like, just stay with what's been working, and perhaps there's just the energetics now means that actually your clients aren't coming because you need a bloody rest, love. You need to close your laptop, you need to go out into nature, and you need to spend some time with yourself and the earth, charge up, go back out.
Yeah. And I noticed that for me, like I was actually rereading a journal prompt that I had, and it was talking last year about how I'm honoring these highs and these lows. And like my lows are not as low as they used to be, but there's always going to be moments of rest and moments of momentum. And Spirit reminds me a lot, like, you better not take for granted the rest that you have, because when things are busy, they're busy. When they're on, when the momentum is going, the momentum is going. You're going to wish you had rest if you did not take the proper rest here, you know, and that I'm always stuck with them. As I'm like, okay, fine, I'm listening.
Yeah, that's
I'm
so
listening.
true. I've got this visual of like, we're like these little batteries, right? And we can bank that energy and use it for later. Now, obviously, going into deepest winter solstice, we're naturally slowing down. Things are falling away. It's the perfect time to review your product line, or your
Yes.
if you're doing coaching, if you're whatever service you're offering, it's like, this is the time to go, what is in alignment, what needs to come into the new year, what do I want to perhaps chop for now. And yeah, so I've written here, healing yourself through business, and I feel like this is the way that we're naturally going anyway. I'd love to know what does that look like for you, healing yourself through your business, if that is something that you're aware that you do. Yeah, like, let's riff on that.
I love this question. So two things. I feel like whenever you live in your soul's expression, it's automatically a healing thing. So like creating whenever you feel led to create, as long as it's not coming from survival mode, like you said, let me put this out, let me hurry up and do this. If you're just in ease creating, it's automatically therapy. It's automatically therapeutic. And it feels good to birth something. And that natural birthing is a rebirth. Every time I release something new, I'm being reborn in that. And so
I love that.
I just observe that a lot, like how I have a new perspective every single time I release something. Every single time I offer something new, like the offerings you create are sacred. And that's how I view my offerings. I know that Spirit's going to bring me who needs them, like whoever can use them, whoever I can help, whoever. And that's a divine reflection of me in some type of way. Like every session I have, I'm taking something for me and I say, you know, how can this apply in my own life? And I think people look at spiritual coaches and intuitives and people who are tapped into spirit, and they think that we don't have a human experience, or that we're not like learning things or remembering who we are along the way. And every single day, every day, I'm like, I'm taking something away from, you know, I'm soaking it in, and I'm like letting it marinate in my body, like in my experience. And so every offering that I create is very therapeutic for me. What I will say on the other side of that, though, is that that can definitely be escapism for a lot of people. A lot of, and myself included, I have an Aries moon. So sometimes I can just like want things to be done. I want things to be, I'm just like, if I don't sit and celebrate what I just did, I'm going to go create something else without paying attention to the celebration or the need for rest. Right. And I
I'm
have
just
to
breathing a big
remind,
breath in there because I'm so on exactly the same page as you.
I have to rest. I have to celebrate. Spirit just told me you need to. I'm in that resting season now. Like, Spirit is like, you need to rest. You need to celebrate. You just birthed a baby. Why? I was reborn in witnessing that birth. You know, like I'm a different person. So I have to sit and like really sit on what is being presented to me, and it changes a person. Like, if you're not present with it though, and you're just constantly doing and creating, you're missing so much. Like, you're letting all of these gems fly by. And if you're not present, you're either in that place of anxiety or that place of depression. You're like, but being present is the cure all. Like, so if you're right here, right now, you're able to see things for what it is in the moment. And it helps you to slow down. It helps you to like really soak it in so that you're prepared for your next step. And so I used to do it so unhealthy where I used to use my business for escape, which is why my first business didn't work. I had a business before Soul Drive. So, I think that Spirit gives you a lot of like, I'm always learning. I'll just say that. Like, Spirit's always giving me gems, and that healing is always circulating. But it's just about self-awareness. Like, and I can tell when I'm trying to fulfill something in my life by being of service too. And I have to tell myself, you can't save everybody. Like, you can't do for everybody. You can't be everything for everybody if your cup is not filled, you know?
Yeah.
So that's definitely been the momentum.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to see both sides of it.
Yeah, and explore both. There's so many nuggets of wisdom in there, wise words like we can pick out for little pre-rolls. I'm like, oh, that one. Oh, that one. At the beginning of what you were saying, you mentioned something about, I don't know if whether you mentioned it or it's just my mind is going to there, but where I'm tracking to is, as a healer, as a person with a healing business, right? We are that's what we do. Oh yeah, it's about people not thinking that you're human, that you're having the human experience. And I've actually got into it feels like a bit of a mental debate at the moment about, so I haven't been having the best of time for the last 3 months, shall I say. I've been working very much on my website, my offerings, and it's looking and feeling so good now. And it's launching, everything's launching in the new year. However, there's part of me that, I'm just gonna be totally honest, is feeling like a bit like disingenuous with what I'm offering, because although I'm living my practice as much as I can, I'm still having this very deep, quite emotional, traumatic human experience. And I start asking myself, is it okay that I'm coaching in this space? Is it okay that I'm giving from this space? And I just really love to know what your thoughts are on this, because I'm still in that like back and forward place.
First thing is that that's even more of a reason why you are qualified to talk about these things. And I've actually went back and forth. I don't know if you would call it imposter syndrome, but I've definitely been back and forth with that at multiple areas of my life. And going to the altar always, like sitting at the altar always like clears my mind in those spaces. And just like diving deeper into my own spirit work and really getting to the root of why I want to create this perfect version for people to see. And to remember that, like, I love this quote that's like, well, you don't look like a healer. And spirit is like, well, I didn't make you to be an actor. You know, like you're not meant to be someone that you're not. Like you're not just supposed to play a role, you know? And so our ego creates this idea of what a healer looks like. And spirit reminds me all the time that like our healers have been through the most shit. Our healers have been through the most things, because why? You cannot relate to someone if you have not experienced us, like, or remember an experience of that form. Like, there is, if you're meant to work in like death doula work, you're gonna go through a series of death and rebirth. Like if you're meant to work in mediumship, you will be around you'll feel the death around you. You'll be immersed in the spaces where you are meant to work the most. And you will deal with the emotions associated with that, because how are you going to relate to someone? How are you going to say, yes, this is how you work through grief if you haven't worked through grief? You know, like it's just about experience. And you're even more qualified to speak on those things because you have been through that, you know, not to trauma bond with anybody that you're clients with, but to say, you know, I tell my people, look, I'm going through a transformation right now. And I'm at odds with a few of my thoughts, and that's what it is. I don't feel like that disqualifies us.
Yeah.
I feel like that transparency is what opens people up to us, and to feel comfortable with, oh, I'm not just talking to someone who doesn't know the emotion that I'm feeling. Or, you know, even if I wouldn't teach about things that you haven't like processed yet, you know, because there might be some extra goodness that's going to come out from the processing of that entirely. Like you'll be able to give a deeper perspective at the end of it, but you're already qualified to bring people through the methods, because whether you realize it or not, your practice is going to help somebody. You going to the altar, or you doing your 7 days of self-care, of sacred ritual, you know, like you doing these things is you being an example of action to take in these moments. When I'm not feeling good, I go into a fast. If I feel like things are stagnant in my life, I'm fasting. So that's always my mode. So discipline is something I talk about a lot. It may not be everyone's path, but that's what sees me through my moments, and it helps me gain clarity. And I'm very transparent with people about the clarity that I gain in those spaces. And I feel like that deepens my connection with the community, and it helps people to know, like, the only reason I can talk about this is because I've been through it, you know, like I'm not over here blindly trying to lead you into a place of just life is grand. Like, no, life is what you make of it. And the hardship that we go through is about perspective. So if I can look at my hardship and say, okay, I'm going to take this challenge and I'm going to learn from it, and I'm going to soak it up and see where I can be least resistant, that is only going to fuel my next teaching. It's going to fuel my next offering. And I think that that's a very sacred place to be in.
I'm just letting all those words, those codes land. Such a beautiful reflection on that question. And I feel like you've probably settled a lot of people's spirits, including mine, there with this like little funky period that I'm going through. And of course, you know, this is what I coach as well. We've got to move through these death and rebirth portals and cycles in order to come to be the activator for somebody else in that.
Yeah.
And it's just you've just given me such a beautiful reminder. This is why we do this work. We hold each other's hands through these portals, and we pull each other back, and we hold each other together. And yeah, I just feel like this is why this is the work.
Yeah.
And we're all doing it together. And it's so important for me. I've always been quite transparent on my social media, and but I have felt like recently, I'm like, oh, do I share that, or do I not share that? So this leads me on to my next sort of topic, which is about creating an active and engaging community, and how you do that. I know that you've got a good following on Instagram. Your Facebook's pretty lively, and you have some really interesting conversations coming through. So I'd love to know a bit more about you sharing your parts of your process, and how that impacts your following, also how it impacts the abundance that's coming in. Do we, when we're really sharing from that deep raw core place, is that when we're able to receive more, or where do you go with that?
I think there's like some private moments and some public moments, because even in my rawness, I don't share every single thing, but if I feel led to do so, I will. Like, I feel like people will definitely gain whatever thoughts I'm having. I'm not the only one, and I love to share that. When I'm in that raw space, though, I tend to not do as many like offerings personally, like one-on-one, but I tend to share more on social media, because I don't need to I need to be in a solid place when I'm in one-on-one spaces. But on social media, I can share, like, I may not be taking clients, but maybe you can like gain something from a perspective that I'm sitting on, or maybe you can gain something from a message that Spirit is giving me right now. And a lot of those moments too, Spirit tells me, get off social media so you can clear your head too. So like a lot of the messages that I bring, they're not when I'm going through it in that moment. They're the aftermath of the hermit mode that I have like assumed for a little bit, and I've like really sat with it, so I don't want my messages to be conflicting. And sometimes that can be when I'm not in the greatest space personally. I just need to like sit on it a little bit more, because I know when clarity comes for me, it'll be the clarity that someone in the collective needs. So I just flow with that. And I allow it to be what it is. And in the process of that, I let Spirit guide.
Yes.
I think that social media is such a wild place. It's such a big portal. Social media is a huge portal. And so I do believe that like when I'm in my rawness and authenticity, I'm going to automatically attract more people to hear that message. And then when I'm stable and in my space, I'm always going to be in abundance of my community. Like when I'm ready for one-on-ones again, my community is very responsive to that. Yes. So I think it's obedience there.
And I also think it's like the words mystic marketing strategy are coming to me.
Yeah.
We're going into the mystery to then come out with the content goods, and we're really rather than it being okay, we're going to post on this day, that day, and have a full kind of content plan. what you're saying is you're having these human experiences, you're processing them, you're probably journaling a lot, getting creative, and then there's a time for that to come out, and perhaps by
Yeah.
that time you might be ready for taking on those one-on-ones again.
Yeah.
And it all aligns perfectly.
Yeah. And there's a lot of, I love the feature of scheduling your posts for you, because there's a lot of moments where I'm not in a space to communicate with people, but I still have so much content from my experiences that I can still share in those moments that I'm not feeling well. Or like, I'll tell people like, I'm in that transformational season and this is what I have to offer.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what I don't. And okay, I just made it out of this transformational season. Let me share with you what I gained from it, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that when I used to think about what am I going to post on Tuesdays and what am I going to do this, I would literally have breakdown crying sessions, because I was like, social media is so hard for me. But I found the most flow in just being.
Mm-hmm.
And even Spirit is funny, because the months that I take the most breaks is always when I make the most money. And I think that's hilarious. Like, I literally stopped taking clients for 3 months last year. And I made so much money. I don't ask me how. I don't know. But it would be like random donations and like people buying workshops and sound healings off the site, and like just stuff that I offer passively. And it
Yes.
just was like, you know, I was busy helping deliver a baby in November, and I made so much money in November. I did not take hardly, and maybe a handful of clients in November, and I still came out with so much more abundance. You know, it's not about the money, but you really like look and see how surrendering and obedience like still provides for you. You're still
Absolutely.
provided for. Even if I listen and then the moment I don't listen, Spirit is like, nobody is booking you. And nobody books. When I'm supposed to be resting, nobody books. And when I'm supposed to be doing something, my bookings are full. So I think that that's very telling of the way that I run my business.
Uh-huh. Yeah, and I'm seeing your suite of products, which you have, like you said, you've got these workshops, you've got your ancestral range. So you have got this ability you can take a physical step back from the business, and your other things can sell for you.
Yeah.
How did you get to this point? You know, I see everywhere. It's like passive income. This is the way forward. And I do think there's a period in your business where there's a gap between you and the passive income, right? How
Yeah.
did you get those two to connect?
I think I'm still figuring that out.
Yeah.
Some passive things that I do is I record my workshops and I put them on the site to purchase after the workshop is done. My sound healings, which are between $5 and $10, they range from like meditation based to medicinal.
Mm-hmm.
And those are passive for me. That's what I offer passively right now, but I have like 5 different projects in my mind that I'm working on that will eventually bring me passive as well.
Yeah.
And I think that there is definitely a lot of truth to us moving to passive income.
Mm-hmm.
And a big portion for me, I don't know if it's going to be like this for everyone else, but I've been sitting on teaching for years. Like Spirit brought it to me back many years ago and was like, you're going to teach this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, so I have a long list of things that I can teach, but I haven't figured out how I wanted to offer it yet. And so I've just been letting it marinate. So now I'm at the space where, okay, I'm working on a mentorship thing that can be very passive in its own way.
Yeah.
Which is beautiful, but it's taken me a long time to develop that. So I can't say that like passive, even I wrote a book too, a journal. It's called The Art of Self-Worship. And I'm going to actually re-release that. I'm going to make some editing changes, add some things, and re-release it. But that was a source of passive income for me for a while as well. But it took me 4 months to develop that book, like over 300 pages of like step-by-step things that you can do in this journal. And I just realized that there is a lot of preparation that goes into passive income that also comes with having to be very patient and having to also not be in it for instant gratification. Because the things that bring me instant gratification are the things that I'm doing this week and next week. Like it's going to be where my schedule is booked with one-on-one sessions. But for me to enjoy my alone time, my personal time, my creative time, to not even worry about what money I'm making, like I haven't worried about that in a while, but for me to do it passively, truly passively, I don't even feel like I'm there yet. I'm just slowly building it. And I realize like Spirit tells me all the time, this is not an instant thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when people hear passive, they think instant.
This is what I was going to lead on to. Yeah, it's
such
not a misleading term. And I think when you get into this business and you start hearing, yeah, you can create passive income here and just pop up a little course there. What you actually realize when you get into it, how long it takes to put that course together, to do the branding for it, to do all the little Canva headers for each course thing, and then write the bio and the blurb and then link everything to the payment system.
It's literally a whole thing. And then you create the website page and then you put together your funnel and you think, okay, like what's the mailing list gonna do? It's just, and you especially, you do some amazing preparation work that I can tell you've been working on these things for months. Like I am like, yo, Emma does it. Like Emma's really good at this online marketing thing. I am not even touching what you're doing in that aspect right now. And I just am so inspired by what you do with it. But I can tell this, even the Notion template that you made, I use it and it works for me.
Which one?
It's the intuitive business
predictor.
It's so good. And I'm like, it takes me a while to like edit things how I want it on there. But the way you laid it out worked for me. And I was like, this is crazy because I know she had to have spent so much time on this for it to be functional like this. And I'm like, man, you are doing Spirit's work with this. And I'm like, wow. And I want to shout from the hills about the work that you do that makes it easier for people like me, like us, and it's so rewarding to see, but I know that there's so much more in the back end than me just seeing this Notion. Like it's more than me seeing that, there's so much more that goes into the preparation of that. And I'm like, people have no clue. People have no clue. The only reason I know is because I do a lot of this work, like I'm the one that creates the Canva flyers, the newsletter, like everything creative on the back end, I make it. So that's the only reason I know, but I wouldn't if I was anybody else.
Yeah, thank you for reminding me about the intuitive business predictor. And I will put that in the show notes because that was a real exploration into my own way of my neurodiverse intuitive mind and how do I how do I see my business on one page? That's kind of
Yeah.
what I wanted. So it's great to hear that you're using it, and quite a few of my other clients have been using it as well and found it really useful as to start the day or start the week, and lead from there. So thanks.
Yeah. You've touched something that I didn't even know was touchable, which is beautiful.
Oh, well, that's the I think that's probably the Virgo sun in me, the organization, the structure, the strategy. But then I've got my Aries, not Aries, that's you, Aries moon. I'm Aquarius moon,
Oh,
which
okay.
which is my like, that's
Out of this
the
world.
Virgo gives me the edges, right? The And then the Aquarius makes me like a little bit more floaty and connected.
Yeah.
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 Ah, amazing. I'm just enjoying this chat so much.
I
We
love
will
it.
wrap up in a little moment. But first, I have a question about one of your, I was just looking on your website before, and you have a tag and a link called Spirit Royalty. Can you tell me a
Yes.
little bit more about that?
So spirit royalty is actually it is what I call my gifting system. So if you want to give a gift card or like basically get a part of get in the action but for later, so it is, I'm still playing around with that, but because I noticed like maybe that's just not a thing in our community yet, but I feel like big stores have like referral programs, like they have gift cards and things like that. So why wouldn't we? Why wouldn't you want to gift your family and friends or like put something on the side for yourself for later, up. So it just gives people a deeper access to me, and they can gift it to their friends and family and things like that.
Amazing. So perfect for this time of year.
Yes, definitely.
And it doesn't get lost in the post.
No, it doesn't. And it doesn't have an expiration date. So
Right. Amazing. That's great to know. And is that are you doing any affiliate work with that as well?
eventually, yes, I
Yeah.
will. Not right now. I'm still coming up with like back end things like ambassador programs, affiliate. Still thinking about how I want to do sponsorships for the podcast and things like
Mhm.
a lot of that stuff is still, it's all written down, but it just has not materialized yet.
Yeah. I feel
It's
like that goes, sorry, carry on.
no, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just saying, I feel like that comes back to this point we were making about the passive income, right?
Yeah,
When I look at the podcasters that I love and that I follow, and I've been following for 5 years or something, and they've got their affiliate codes and they've got their sponsorship on their podcasts, and this podcast is a baby, right? It's not even a
yeah,
year old. And I'm like, oh well, I need to have, I need to have my affiliate, I need to have my my referral system and this and that.
yeah,
And actually this is, I just want to share with everyone that's listening, and we haven't got it yet. We're still, it takes a while to know what that looks like. Because you're playing with big energies
yeah.
there, I believe. And to really go, yes, I believe in this product and I'm going to take you as a sponsor, or I'm going to do a referral scheme with this person, that takes a little while. And it goes back to what you were saying about patience and
Yeah.
presence and purpose, not passive. No, nothing about this whole process is passive.
Only the outcome is it becomes passive later, but it's not passive at all. Like you're so engaged with it. And it's like nobody else knows that you're engaged with it because you're not going to like put it out there that you're launching something until it's ready, right? So you're literally, it's almost like you're pregnant and nobody knows. Like you're about to birth this entity. You're about to birth this. And I've even been sitting with that concept of like, I believe so much in myself that I'm ready for like grants and investors
Yes.
and things like that. And that's a big energy. That is a big energy to say, I know that I have this intuitive led business, but that's even more of a reason to invest in me.
Yes.
And like, that is, whenever you think about the business world, you don't think about that at all. Like you're not thinking about intuitive led business. You're thinking about structures and business plans and don't reinvent the wheel. But I feel like I don't really do anything like a normal business model at all, you know? So like, it's definitely a different approach and it requires a lot of confidence. And even sometimes I feel like I make up this confidence, like in the moment when I'm having that real moment of like, am I ready for this? And spirit is like, you better go out there and act like you're ready. You better go out there and embody the energy.
Yeah.
Embody the energy of this wealth because you are wealth. You are everything. So there is literally not a no for you. There's not, whatever you see yourself in this world, it's for you. And so there is no no's.
Yeah.
There might be a maybe later, but anything you want, it's tangible.
Yes.
And when you start seeing yourself in that big view, you start to see also your creations and your business in a bigger view. And you start saying, this is actually global. This is actually reaching people that I would have, like when I started Soul Drive Global, I knew I wanted to be global, hence the name, but I did not know what that came with, you know, like I knew it internally in my spirit, but I did not see it in that moment, like what that was going to require, you know? And so certain things require a different embodiment of energy, even when you don't feel like you're there yet. Like if I want investors, I have to walk like that.
Yeah.
I have to look at my business and my creations from a outer perspective and not so in it, like to where I can't have tunnel vision here.
Absolutely.
I have to see things for the long term and then allow spirit to navigate what that looks like.
Yeah, I feel that so much. This redesign that I've done of my website, I've designed it in a way that if I was a investor looking at it, I've got a media kit on there now. There's a bit more of a backstory. I've got all my listings of where I've spoken, what the word isn't, it's not certifications, but it's like the boxes that I've ticked that kind of I know that an investor might be looking at. It's like you worked at this festival and that thing. So it builds you out. I know in our world when we're one-to-one, it's like, well, no, you're an expression of divinity and you are already everything and you are cosmic. But in this world, sometimes we need to kind of lay it out so that everyone can see, right, this is what he they do, and then how can that be expanded and extended into various different areas of income and impact and social enterprise. That's kind of what I'm seeing where I'm going. So
I feel
go on, feeling.
I'm so sorry to interrupt, but like I also want to mention this for your listeners. Like sometimes I feel so much resistance in labels, and like I don't want to just be a sum of my accomplishments, you know, like I am this outer worldly being. Like either you're going to experience me or you don't. But I also realized, like, spirit tells me they don't know what you do until you explain it to them.
Yeah.
They don't know who you are. Like they feel who you are. They're attracted to the energy. Now break it down for their mind, for their experience, so that they can get it. Because even I forget how well versed and prepared I am for this stage of my life until I go back and I look at all my certificates or like accomplishments or things that I've done. And I'm like, wait a minute, I'm actually qualified. Qualified, and I need to tell people what I'm qualified to do because they don't really know. So like I really transmute a lot of my resistance to labels into just sharing intimately and sacredly with the people and the connections that I want to build. How can we serve each other? How can we help each other? How can we bring this each other's offering to the table and really benefit our community in a bigger way? And so I have to remind myself of that very often, because we don't have to be stuck in the labels. But we can still utilize the things that we've learned and the journey that we've had thus far, because it clearly had some relevance.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I'm always surprised how many people read my about page.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have it on there because I don't care. This is the past and I am here in the present. But when I've got on Zoom calls with people, just through connection calls, they're like, oh, I saw that you were a snowboard instructor, or that you lived in this country, or you worked in this place, or you had this accident and this rebirth, or this relationship. And I'm like, yeah, that's all part of me. But that is a beautiful connection point for somebody, because they may have had a similar experience, or they may be interested in whatever it is that you've been through and done.
Yeah.
Love it, love it, love it, love it. Okay, so a little couple of little questions just to wrap up. Do you have any top tips for people who are starting out with a healing business, or perhaps they're already running a successful healing business, to stay in it, to stay with it when you're feeling that funk, when you're feeling that energy of, oh, I don't know if I'm in my soul purpose or doing the right thing? What are your top tips for moving through that?
Go back to your basics. Go back to your cleansing, protection, grounding. Go back to your why. Why are you doing what you're doing? It may seem like a wasteland in front of you, like there's no end in sight. But remember that, like, sometimes there's things that we need to slow down to see. And there's things, every part of the journey is important. And so slow down, breathe it in, take it in, get back to your basics to feel grounded in what you do, and take a break until you feel inspired to offer. Because no offering that you give feeling depleted feels good, not to you and not to the people receiving. And so when you feel good about what you offer, when you feel good about being in your service, it's going to be felt by everyone involved. So take a break if you need to. Take long breaks, short breaks, it doesn't matter. And just know that you're provided for. You're provided for even when you're not in service, because what you offer to the world is not determining your worth. So you are already wealthy. You are already successful. You are already prosperous. Your abundance lives in you, and you are the embodiment of that. So just enjoy your life. get back to the curiosity and the enjoyment of things, and you will find your way back into what you offer eventually.
So many activations and emotions coming through with those words there. Powerful, powerful transmission. Yes, I hear that. I really hear that. Okay, final question. How would you explain, define, or embody New Earth business?
New Earth business to me is allowing spirit to really navigate which pillar you are for the community. So everybody, I think about foundations very similar to like pillars, like things that are grounded, rooted, strong. And soul-led expression and soul-led business is what is going to hold up and invest in and sow the seeds moving forward for our community. And so to me, it's which pillar are you? Because we all are pillars. So, who are you showing up as? And allowing that to expand, because the work I do is helping you and the work you do is helping me, even if we never engage in each other. That's just how the collective works. And so the first words I think of when I hear New Earth business is the collective, our people. What are we doing in our community within ourselves? And that automatically expands. And so just being a pillar for the shift and the change and the foundation that is to come in our collective and in our lives, because your joy is my joy is your joy, your wealth is my wealth is your wealth, and that's just how it translates. So I just encourage everybody to really be solid in themselves and let that be a pillar for our community.
Yeah, I'm getting this beautiful visual of a big circle of trees. We're all like this forest, and the more that we root down, the more we connect through our roots, and the mycelium, we're communicating.
Yeah, the trees have their own system of communication, and so do we energetically. It's so deep rooted.
Ah, that's actually a breath of fresh air that I breathed then. It's like, this conversation has been expansive, enlightening, empowering, all of the things. Where can we find you, connect with you, all of that good stuff? Let us know.
I agree. Like, this conversation has just been all the questions that I would have, just like you said on my podcast, like you're like, all the questions I wanted someone to ask me, they asked me. You did. You did the same. It was reciprocity for sure.
Yeah.
You can find me at souldriveglobal.com on every social media, Soul Drive Global on Instagram, on Facebook. I also have, if you find me on those, you can also find the links to my Telegram. I have a Telegram channel that I do affirmations in, and weekly channel messages, things like that. If you subscribe on my website, I also send out a monthly newsletter and lots of other fun things, as well as Living in Spirit podcast. You can find that on any platform that has podcasts, like Apple, Spotify, Anchor. And that's where you can find me. And if you guys have any questions about what I do or what service or product best suits you, please message me. I'm happy to just engage and be present with our community. So, and thank you so much, Emma, for having me. I feel so honored.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure, and I'll put all of that information in the show notes. And yeah, let's close this sacred circle. And we'll see you again really soon. Thank you so much for your presence.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sending love across the pond.
Sending love.